everyone, Joe here. So tonight we are going to be making some sketty grandma style. But before we have sketty grandma style, we gotta have some wine. So let's do this. This recipe was taught to me by my grandma. May she rest in forever peace. And I always love to cook it. It's so easy. You just can't get better than that. One of Grandma's world famous secret recipes that I'm divulging to the world. Cheers. Very good. So, this recipe is very easy. It is a sketty with meat sauce. So, you're going to need a pound of ground beef. You will need a bottle of your favorite plain spaghetti sauce. I always pick a marinara, and I oftentimes go for ones that are, it's very basic. This has tomatoes, tomato puree, olive oil, Parmesan cheese, salt, garlic, dried onion, and spices. So something more natural than unnatural. You're going to need, of course, whatever your favorite spaghetti is. I like thin spaghetti. And as for spices, you will need some onion, Italian seasoning, garlic powder, salt and pepper. And that's it. Very easy recipe. So without further ado, let's get to the hob. So we're going to start by putting the beef into the pan here. And what I'll typically do is I'll just take my flipper here, get it all nice and chopped up, because what we're going to do now is we're going to apply all sorts of spices. Now, I don't measure the spices. I guess this is sort of the trick to cooking, I guess, you know, just do what you feel. But no, we're going to start with garlic, and I'll typically, let's see, I'm trying to make sure I get it for you folks. About like that. And now we're going to take our Italian seasoning. About like that. And then we are going to take our onion. About like that. Salt. About like that. And pepper. Pepper's definitely the lightest one to go with. Put too much on and you're going to wind up with chili. And so now what I'll do, I'm going to flip on the stove here to maximum. And while it's heating up, I go ahead and I just work the spices into the beef. Okay. And now what we're going to do, we're pretty much just going to cook this down until the beef is well browned, no raw spots, because the next step is that we will add it to the sauce, add some more spices to zhuzh it up a bit more, and then let that cook while we get the rest of the spaghetti cooking. But so what I'll do is I'll just tend this ever so randomly most of the time. Just make sure that it's not burning and that you're not getting big chunks. Unless, of course, you want large chunks. That's fine, too. But we typically like it to be smaller pieces of beef scattered throughout the sauce. So it's picking up now. Perfect time to have some wine. can see what I'm doing. I pretty much will take this and just cut into the beef. It sort of breaks it up as it's cooking, you know. Toss it around. Now we don't want to brown the beef so much that it actually, you know, burns a little bit, but this is what I mean by browning. There's a couple spots that are still red, so I mash them up. I need to be left-handed. But that is about as far as we're going to go with browning the beef. So we're going to kill the heat. Just going to do one more look to see if there's any more pink spots. I don't think there is. It doesn't really matter if there's some pink spots in there because we're going to be cooking it in the sauce. Alright, so now the next step is to strain off the fat. And I typically just use a regular colander to do that. So I'm not going to bore you with that. We're going to go strain this off and come back to the pot. Okay, so our beef is now strained, so we are going to take it from the colander right into a smaller saucepan. And what we're going to do now is take our basic sauce. Again, we're going to zhuzh it up, but take it, ooh, give it a pop, and pour it right on in. I prefer the chunkier ones, if I can find them. If not, just a standard marinara works great. Actually, you know, one of my favorites, this is chunky marinara. One of my favorites is the tomato basil. And you don't have to get the expensive stuff. In fact, I found that this recipe is better when you get the cheap stuff. And I think it's because they don't put nearly as much spices, or nearly as much, you know, spice in there. So then when we add what we're going to add here, which is pretty much all the same ingredients that were used in the beef element of it, you don't get conflicting spice quotients, I guess. I don't know. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so we're going to pepper. Oops, I made a mess. Again, pepper's the one you want to go the lightest with, because put too much of that in, you're going to wind up with chili. Salt. Some garlic powder. The Italian seasoning. And the onion. You could use all fresh ingredients if you've got them. I found the dry ingredients work just fine. So now what we do, we give it a stir, get everything incorporated in there. And now we're going to put it on, I'll typically put it on about medium to medium high until it starts simmering. And then I'll turn it down so that way it doesn't bubble around too much. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this simmer for the, get it up to a simmer, and then we're going to put on the spaghetti. And the reason I do that is I found that it's a lot better when you simmer your dry herbs and dry spices. It sort of helps their flavor come out and get incorporated better. So we're going to take our lid, make sure the little escape vent is closed, and let that set. It's alive! It's alive! It's getting up to temperature here. So once it's an overall simmer, that's when I'm going to fire up the burner on the water there. But you can hear it's picking back up steam pretty quickly, so in no time we're going to have that water going. That's what we want. That's what we want. So I'm going to turn down the heat just a little bit. I've got an electric top here, so I'm going to put it down on about 4, just so that way it maintains the simmer. Don't need it to scorch or anything like that. And what we're also going to do is we're going to get the water on the back burner here boiling. So I set that one up on high. So we are going to continue to stir this every once in a while. Like I said, we're going to turn down the heat to about 3.5, 4, right around there. If you notice that it's simmering too vehemently, turn it down a little more, because we only want a light simmer. You can see it's a pretty thick sauce, so there's not a lot of water in there for it to use. We're just going to keep stirring that, and then once the water gets to a boil, we're going to add a bit of salt and our spaghetti. Okay, so the spaghetti water is almost to a boil, but I wanted to show you this. That's what we're going for. A nice steady simmer. Nothing too crazy, but a nice steady simmer. And up here in Waterland, we are almost there. Okay, our water just started to boil. Now we're going to add a little bit of salt here. It's not a whole lot. It looks a lot more than it really is, but just enough to kind of fill the middle of my palm. And now it's time to add your spaghetti. I'm just cooking for 2. So I'm going to add about that much. Who am I kidding? I always add more. I'm like, oh, I don't know how much I need to put in. That ought to do it. We'll grab our little spaghetti spoon. Help it down into the water. Now, one thing I've always been taught to do as well is to take a little bit of olive oil right in there. Probably, I don't know, a tablespoon or 2. And there we are. So now that it's a boil, I know on my stove here, if I don't take it down off high, that thing's going to boil over no matter what I do. So with it like that, we will continue to let it boil. You can cook it to whatever consistency you like. We like it a little bit more than al dente, so not quite firm in the middle, but not really soft. And while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and prepare a little side. It's a garlic toast, but as my girlfriend likes to call it, Joe toast. Let's make some Joe toast. So making this is really, really simple. Take your favorite spread, or real butter, or whatever you like. Give a good spread across the top. Oh, this is not a product endorsement. I'm making a slice for each of us. You will need a pretty big pan or a skillet for this. We've got a true skillet right here. But essentially what we're going to do, we're going to butter 2 sides of bread here. Well done. And then on one side, we're going to take some garlic salt. Put on as much as you'd like. My girlfriend likes it to be pretty salty. I don't. And then we're just going to let that set. What we're going to do is take this, flip it onto the hot griddle here, and then salt the other side. I found if you salt both sides, you just end up losing a lot of the salt on the one side. So let's get this thing heated up. Alright, so here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because we've got our spaghetti boiling over here. You want to make sure you get it done to however you like to have it done. We've got the spaghetti sauce here, which is pretty much, it's ready to go. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and, shut that one down. We'll just let it sit there. And this is heating up. I've got it set on high here. And now we're going to take the garlic, salt side down, toss it on, salt the other side, get this one out of the way. Now I have already washed my strainer again, so it's ready to go when the pasta's done. And you want to keep an eye on this because this sucker burns really, really fast. If you've never tested spaghetti, just take one out. We're almost there. You give it a bite. See if it's where you like it. It's still got a little bit of crunch to it. But this really takes no time at all. Give this a stir. You can see, very thick sauce, but that's exactly the way Grandma made it. Lightly brown on one side, and then what I'll do is I'll flip it again and cook this side towards the interior, just to evenly brown it the entire way out. I've got it set on the notch just under the highest setting, so on my stove here it's set on 9, as is the water. Whoop. That one's not quite done. Ooh, you can see it's starting to smoke a bit. So at this point, I'm going to take the spaghetti, we're going to pull that out, and we're going to toss it into the colander or strainer. This one, done. You can actually kill the heat on that too, because just the residual heat that's left is in here, and you can see it's smoking, so, and I don't want the fire alarm to go off. It's looking good. Alrighty. So my grandma would always add a dash of butter or margarine to the spaghetti to keep it from sticking too bad. Whoops. Delightful. This is looking beautiful. It's time to plate this up. Woo! That was a bit much. There we go. Set this over here. Give it one last stir. You can put on as much or as little as you want. It's the glorious part. You make it how you like it. Doesn't matter what anyone else says, thinks, does. Delightful. Missing a spot. Can't be missing a spot. And a little final touch here. See that? Grandma would have been proud. And because this is YouTube, and I just cooked up this delightful dinner, where would we be if I didn't try it on camera, right? Woo. Someone's very interested in dinner. Spot on. Spot on. Grandma would be proud. And you can feel free to adjust the spices if you want more salt, if you like, fresh onion rather than, the dried, whatever works for you. Glorious part about this is that it's really just taking some base stuff, zhuzhing it up a bit, and away you go. So I hope you've had fun. I hope you give it a try, because my grandma would highly recommend it if she was still around. Trust me on that one. So cheers everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I gotta get another plated one up. Stat, or else I'm gonna be in big trouble. Down the hatch. Is that good?